it's me, Patrick from Outrageous Insight. How are you? Today here with a microphone that is wedged up on a copy of the Great Mental Models of the World, and with my headphones attached by a bulldog clip. Don't know what a bulldog clip is? As I just furkle in my little drawer of stationery here, it's one of these. I asked my guest not to mention how woefully underprepared and unprofessional I was, but of course she was far too kind and sort of polished a media performer to mention it, so I decided to out myself. My guest today is Maddie Petry. Maddie, how are you?
I am doing well, thanks. Excited to be here. How are
Well,
you?
I am extremely well. Where in the world are you today, Maddie?
I am in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, what a part of the world. Fantastic. Have I ever did we speak in the pre-call about Leadville?
We didn't, but it's
No.
one of the tiny gems of the world.
If you've never been to Leadville, folks, it is amazing. When I went in the 90s, it was literally like a sort of single lane, like Western movie town. And it had like a sort of gem shop in it. It had a gunsmith. It had an undertaker's. I imagine it had a saloon. It probably didn't have a saloon. That was just in my mind. Maddie, have you been to Leadville like more recently than the last like 30 years?
Yes, I have. And
What's it
you'll be
like today?
pleased to know there is still a saloon and
Okay.
it is still that tiny town. They have kept all their charm and character and their postcard vibes wrapped up in just the most beautiful place.
I sort of imagine it's like a sort of like a haven for second homers, but maybe it is just still like super tiny.
It is tiny and they definitely have second homeowners, but a
Mm,
really good community, like very tough, hardy people that can
mm,
hack a cold winter.
mm.
Um, it's cool. It's a good spot.
Well, for somebody who comes from such a sort of deep alpine and mountaineering heritage, which I'm really excited to get into, um, let me just sort of set the scene for the audience. So, Maddie is the VP of Brand and Marketing at Nice Recovery Systems. And in a minute, Maddie, I'll get you just as a sort of one or two liner just to tell us a little bit about Nice Recovery Systems. And she's also the former VP of Brand and Marketing for North America for the sort of outdoor powerhouse brand Mammut. So we're going to have a really fascinating conversation. Maddie, I think people know Mammut, but tell us about Nice, where you are now, and just give us a quick pen portrait of that just to sort of set the scene.
Yeah, so Nice Recovery really lives on the opposite side of outdoor sports in recovery and performance. The recovery side is for post-op care after people get a joint replacement or a joint repair. We essentially created a machine that supports that recovery where you're not filling an ice bucket every 3 hours and just really struggling while you're recovering. And then we also have a performance product surrounded by palm cooling, and that's to help combat inactivity fatigue. So, really nice sits at the intersection of sports and innovation, performance and recovery.
Fantastic. Well, they must be delighted to have you on board. And I wonder if you would just start off, as I ask every guest, give us a bit of a sense about you as a young person, Maddie. Like, what were you like?
Yeah. So I grew up in Colorado, where the outdoors is obviously basically my backyard. My family always adventured together, and habits that stemmed from my mother and my uncles that came from our grandparents were to really just spend any time you had in the outdoors. And so I have a large extended family, and we were all put in a cabin in the mountains, and we would spend our days and our weekends skiing together, exploring the mountains together. I am so shocked that none of us got more hurt than we did. But we really just kind of had full roam of this mountain. And I'm sure the lift ops would see us coming and say, oh no, here's the pack of trouble. But really grew up together and we would ski all day. And then, our parents put a lot of emphasis on coming back together and sharing meals together. And really, having the adventure part, but building up our family together and telling stories. And that was a big part of the mountain experience for me. Um, my mom was definitely one of those people when we saw storms coming in Colorado. People would be filling their cars with groceries, and my mom shoving as many skis and equipment in the car and trying to get us in before the passes closed so we could go experience powder days. And it was a really nice way to spend my childhood. And um, a lot of that carried through adulthood. Many of my family members are still in the outdoor space today. We eventually competed. Some of us went into coaching and freestyle, and yeah, just like had this outdoor experience together as a big extended family, which was such a blessing and privilege.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And two things I've got to declare at this instance, Maddie, and don't judge me. Number one is I've got a snow shovel in the back of my car, which I bought for one, like it was going to be like it was called like something like the mega dump, which basically is like the world's worst framing for like just like 2 inches of snow that was going to come to Britain. But they were like, the mega dump is coming. So I said to my wife, I've gone on Amazon, I've bought this snow shovel, it compacts down to itself, like the one you use for like avalanche sort of like detecting and that sort of thing. And she was like,
Yep.
and we've never used it. So that's number one. Second thing is I've been on probably 15 ski trips and I still can't really get down more than like a blue run on the European system. So like last time when I chatted with my friend Christy and also Andy Cootant at North Face, he said we can basically go ice climbing together, also in Colorado. So an offer for you: do you want to come ice climbing with me, Andy, and Christy, and then back to back, can you and I go skiing maybe? Because like I need help. I need help, big style here, Maddie.
Well, I would need help ice climbing, but yes, I'm in. I'll be hanging there, totally pumped. But skiing for sure. I feel like the Colorado mountains are something that hopefully everybody can experience at some point. But yes, I'm in for
Yeah,
both.
well, I'm so pleased you said that because I once spent 3 very, very happy at the same time that we went to Leadville, I spent 3 very happy weeks in, like, Vail, Beaver
Mm.
Creek, A Basin, and, like, the difference of the sort of pistes compared to, like, Europe is unbelievable. Like, it's just so wide, it's so massive, like, the vistas of the mountains there are unbelievable.
It's a pretty special place, yeah. But I will say skiing in Europe is equally as special. So we'll do trade.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Well, I will basically take you down a blue run in, or like on the kiddie slope in Val d'Isere or somewhere, and then basically we rendezvous with Andy and Christy at Arapahoe Basin. Let's go for that one.
That sounds great.
What a time to be alive, Maddie. This is good. Okay, so not just podcasting, but basically filling up my non-existent social calendar. Having 2 kids, I can dream. I can sit here and pretend that I'm going to spend loads of time on the mountain, but instead, I'm basically going to be organising sort of swim meets and sort of ballet. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I know that world well.
Good, and it's still the key job, and I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about. So I'm not going to ruin the
Mm,
surprise, but I wonder. Tell me a little bit. As you know, this show is all about a decision that changed
mm,
everything. And before we get to the decision, I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about where you were, what the status quo was before your decision, Maddie.
mhm. Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to be the VP of marketing at Mammut. And on paper, that was a massive point in my career. We were in the midst of a 5-year plan that I had helped build. It was in motion. I felt like the brand was really landing in North America. The partnerships were thoughtful and driving the brand forward. And I had a team that I loved and respected deeply. I had a leader that was a mentor towards me. He still is. And again, kind of everything was lining up, and something that I had built over the entirety of my career. I felt like the outdoor industry had an eye on us and there was momentum behind us. It was also incredibly busy season for me. a season where the work is so good and so exciting and fun that you don't really notice you're burning the candle on both ends. And I felt like when the work is so exciting and it's fun that you keep feeding that and you keep fueling that. And so it was a really exciting time in my life, but it was also really demanding. And it was the kind of work that really asked a lot for a long stretch of time, without really letting up. And I don't think that's unusual in this industry. Everyone goes through points where, you're putting the work in and there will be reprieve in an off season or in between seasons. Um, but it doesn't make it easy. And I was starting to run on empty, and everything that normally, filled my cup, the things that gave me space away to be able to come back to the work, was being pushed aside. And I guess I didn't really notice how far it had gone until my husband looked at me one day and just said, you're starting to become a shell of a person. And he didn't mean it as an insult, and he really meant it as, "Hey, let's look at this and have a little bit of a wake up call." And it definitely landed as a wake up call. And so when I think about what was status quo, well, it wasn't actually as clean as it looked, because from the outside, it was great. And it was a kind of moment, again, that I had kind of built my career into. But I was sitting next to a version of myself that I didn't recognize anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Maddie. And it's strange, isn't it? I think we take
Mhm,
so much meaning from our
mhm,
work, and it's exciting, isn't it, when it's
mhm.
firing on all cylinders like that? Like, how did you feel in that moment?
On one hand, I felt really proud of what we were contributing. I felt excited about the work. I was happy that my team was being elevated and recognized for what they had put in. I often say we're planting seeds to be sown. And right at that moment, it was time to sow those seeds. But then on the other hand, I think a shell of a person was really accurate. I feel like I started to lose myself a little bit in the things that made me come alive, not only from a work perspective, but from a personal perspective in all areas. So it was this really strange place to be sitting where both ends were true at the same time.
The thing I love most about doing this show is the chance to talk with leaders about a decision that they may never have spoken about before. Now, this might sound like a podcast party trick, but I promise you it isn't. In fact, it's the same skill that allows you to unlock what your consumers truly want and need. And using that raw data, you can then build more franchise products. The problem is that most brands have currently lost this. Insight teams have been cut, while the number of consumer questions and questions about consumers have only multiplied. And it means that most leaders have no idea where they stand. Closing that gap starts with the Consumer Delight Diagnostic, a structured interview that I run with you that allows me to score your team's insight capabilities and shows you exactly where you stand fast. 90 minutes, fixed fee, $2,500, no pitch. If you're serious about earning your consumer's delight, it starts here. Get in touch at outrageousinsight.com. Yeah, and when we're so used to being competent,
Hmm.
people see us as like, hey, look, they've got all their stuff together.
Hmm.
And I lived with anxiety and depression for like 20 plus years. And throughout
Hmm.
that period, like all you saw was like hard charging. He's doing all these things. He's leading
Hmm.
these things. And actually underneath, you just feel so different. So
Hmm.
I just want to say
Hmm.
that you speaking out like this, Maddie, is I'm sure going to help a lot of people. And thank you so much for just
Hmm.
sort of cracking the door open a bit.
I think it's a really important topic, and I'm grateful to be having these discussions.
Yeah, I agree. I've posted a number of times about, the sort of mental health impacts of
Mm.
entrepreneurship and the fact that, we have to be so busy that we couldn't possibly take on another client, but not too busy that we couldn't just fit one more in. We have to be
Mhm.
like so happy when somebody gives us feedback, even when
Mhm.
sometimes that feedback is absolutely personally crushing, and it's
Yeah.
like this whole crazy, like, you've got to be available, but not too available. You've got to be
Mhm.
busy, but not too busy. And it's like, how the fuck do you basically balance all of that? It's,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
exhausting, isn't it?
It's exhausting, and I think not to undermine what you're saying, but especially the target on women and women leaders. You have to be this, but not too much, and you have to do this and not enough, and you can be a stay-at-home mom or a working mom or somebody working in this industry, and there's just so many standards across the board that are hard to fulfill.
You're so right. That's the first thing I want to say. And I,
Mm.
I also know that coming at this from a position of like white dude, like again, that's a natural inbuilt, like systemic. I mean, it's not fucking news people. It's a systemic, leg up in this situation. So it is harder, and it's not a competition, but it is harder for women in leadership. So you've got this situation where on one end, everything looks rosy in the garden, my words, not yours. Sort of, the snow is perfectly packed on the mountain. At the other end, it feels like maybe the avalanche is about to tip down. I'm not going to expand this mountaineering metaphor because I've already disclosed that I'm so bad at skiing. Um, so what was the decision that you actually took, Maddie, and sort of how did it start to play out?
Yeah, so I made the decision to walk away at arguably one of the most critical points in my career. And I think it wasn't a single moment, it was really months of sitting with it. And once my husband named what he saw, I couldn't really unsee it either. Um, and I think, what was challenging for me was knowing something is true and being ready to act on it are two really different things. Um, and I'm a person of faith, and looking back, I felt like God was moving me towards a decision, slowly in a way that I couldn't rush it, even if I wanted to. And it was just a point that I had to sit with and have conversations with mentors and women around me. And at the point of making this decision, I was having a conversation with one of my mentors who had gone through something similar in her career, and just discussing, how hard some of these seasons can be as both a mom and a professional, and finding the balance and loving the work, but knowing that maybe it wasn't right at the time. And she sent me something that really kind of anchored me in and stuck with me, and um, I want to share it with you. So she said, um, this is a LinkedIn post that she found. I have two titles. One is rented. I give my time, my expertise, my passion, and my energy for it. I'm proud of it. And if I outgrow it, I can trade it in for a new one. And one is permanent, an investment, an identity, one that I pour into, sacrifice for, and will have until the day I die. Director and mama, and both are work. And as I read that, I realized that I let my job, a rented title, take up space that was supposed to belong to something permanent. And I think that as individuals in this space and just across any sector, you don't set out to build an identity around a role. But I woke up and months into this and thinking through it, I realized that I had. And so really the turning point was deciding to leave at a high point on good terms. Um, because staying would be ignoring something I knew to be true, and an action I knew I needed to take.
And that's a leap of faith.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, a big leap of faith.
How did you feel when you took the decision, Maddie?
I think the hardest part was what was running through my head. A lot of questions around, what are you doing? You love this space, you love the team, you love the work. Is this the right decision? Can you keep moving forward with confidence around it? And that was something that I had to really kind of settle with, and really understand. And I think it's so much easier to justify something broken than something good, um, especially in your mind. And this was one that I think challenged me in different ways, more than I had expected. I thought I would kind of put in my time, move on, be okay, and it was something that continued to come up and challenge me, and um, ask me to grow a little bit in this moment and be okay with the unknown and be okay in settling into this new space and redefining what that looked like.
And I know you describe it as a trade off and maybe an
Mm,
unequal trade off, but the thing I'm also hearing is that you were contributing beautifully in both domains, Maddie. And I just want to sort of reflect that back to you and just say, like,
mm,
you know, actually, you were doing as good as you could in both. And actually, like, yeah, you took a decision, but actually, you were making great impact in both. So, you know, just
mm.
wanted to say that because, like, sounds like you're doing fucking well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I think
Even
I
though it
had,
felt hard, I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
it felt shitty, but it sounds like you were still able to do it at least for a time, and that also
Mm.
matters, and lead people and lead them with dignity and with empathy and with authenticity, which obviously just come through in everything you say.
Well, thank you. And I think that's part of being a leader is understanding when it's time to bow out, and let your team kind of take what you've done together and bring it to life and allow them opportunities. So, I left confident in the people that I had worked with and that had built Mammut North America alongside of me, just wonderful contributors. And it was okay for me to take a step back and let them take it and run with it.
So you've made the decision, like, what was the best thing
Mm.
about, like, when you were like, right, they've sent you away with best wishes and hopefully an awesome pair of, like, sort of, avalanche transceivers or something like that. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, or sort of like a very nice, descender. But, like, what I don't even know if Mammut make those, shame on me, but, like, did you make either of those products, Maddie?
We do. We make avalanche equipment. We
Okay,
we
fine.
do. They
Phew.
do.
Okay, good. Okay.
So they left me with a beautiful ice axe.
Okay, good.
Um, yes, that is signed and proudly hangs in my office. So
Oh, amazing. I would love,
yep.
if you can, will you please send me a picture of that? I would absolutely love to
Yes.
see that. And maybe
Yes.
and we'll share that in the show notes as well if Maddie's open to that.
Perfect.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you
of
so
course.
much. So what was the best thing then once you'd made this decision? It had
Mm,
taken a lot of time and reflection and faith to take the leap across
mm.
the sort of across the threshold. What was the sort of payoff for that, Maddie?
Yeah. Well, I think, first off, I had to recognize that I wasn't running from something, I was running towards something. And I couldn't fully name that or figure that out just yet, but um I knew I was on the right track, and I had people who of course questioned my decision, um and didn't understand it, but through that, I also just had just group that surrounded me, especially women, and really just propped me up in every way they could, and really gave me a sense of peace, which I don't take for granted, and pushed me into the next phase of, what does this look like for me? What do I want my career to be? How do I start to define my values and my values at work and match those two together, but keep those lanes separate. Um, and I was just so blessed to have that. I just, all walks of life, stay-at-home moms, professional moms, people that didn't have kids, people that were new to the industry or had been in it for a long time. And really that just kind of carried me through. And I just spent time understanding, what does next look like for me, and how do I want to contribute, and what do I want to contribute to? And what's really important for me in this next journey that I'm about to take on.
So there was a less there was a there are so many lessons implicit in everything you've
Mm,
said, Maddie. And if you had to sort of, draw one or two out for other people that are maybe facing a fork in the road or a
mm,
crossroads moment. Like I used to go kayaking, and the kayaking instructor, Andy, was brilliant. He would always just say, look at where you're trying to go to, not where you're trying to
mhm.
avoid. He's like, if you look at the big overhanging branch that somebody is going to get trapped under, because the river is running so fast, you're only going to go into that. He said, but if you actually look for the eddy that you're trying to make, he was like, that's where the bow of your boat will actually point. And like, what lessons do you think people can take from your story?
Yeah, I think, the outdoor industry runs on people who love what they do. The mountains, the sport, all of it's really beautiful and it's really important. You should be passionate about the work you're doing. I believe that. Um, but I would recommend anyone who is earlier in their career or at a stage that I'm at, to not let that love become your whole identity. Love the work fully, but don't allow it to become the thing you are. And I think if something looks great on paper and still doesn't sit right in your gut, that's a feeling that's worth listening to before maybe life forces you to. But I think it's always healthy and worth taking the time to check in with your values, to get really honest about who you are and what you want your life to be built on, instead of waiting for that breaking point to ask. And I think that not only will help you to do your best work, but also it'll give you longevity in this career. And I think leaders who last, doing the work for 20, 30, 40 years, really stay tuned in to themselves the entire time. And I think that, you know, burnout generally doesn't come from working hard. Certainly there's an aspect of that. But really burnout comes from, um, really not listening to yourself and what your needs are and how you balance the work and everything else going on. And so listen to that, understand that I still want to be doing this work decades from now. And I want to keep checking in with myself, and I want to keep showing up at a high level for the long haul. And so, um, you know, when I left, I wrote out all my values. I knew where I stood and where I wanted to go and what my non-negotiables were. And I wish I had done that, starting day one in early Maddie's career, to understand that. And it changes over time, certainly. But it's always good to just keep those things in check for not only yourself, but the brands that you serve and the people that look up to you and look at you as a leader.
And, at the risk of basically being like that sort of fake doctor out of The Simpsons, Dr. Nick Riviera, the one who like is always. I guess it's no surprise that you've ended up in recovery. It's like
Mm,
in a brand that's got the word recovery in it. It's just kind of like,
mm.
okay, enough cod psychology, Patrick. But I'm just basically throwing out there that it's interesting. This idea of being almost like enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the mountains, but there's a difference between enjoying them and knowing where you are, and actually
Mhm.
being lost and being in a pair of jeans and, walking up a mountain in a comfy pair of sort of flip-flops. And then it's just like, why the fuck am I being rescued by Mountain Rescue right now? Because you've done fuck all
Shock.
preparation. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Um,
yep, mhm.
and it's like, I was really lucky before my dad died. We got to go to India together, and me,
Mm,
my brother, my sort of next youngest brother, and him, and we had this incredible mountain guide Beru with us, and he had this phrase, less seeing, no, more seeing, less worrying, and it just really
mm,
stuck with me. That idea that if you see what really is honest, you do worry less, and I think something
mhm,
that just really resonated hearing what you've said. It's so easy to not listen into those signals, to miss what's going on in
mhm,
nature, both externally and internally, Maddie.
mhm, mhm, for sure. And I think that I've found a place where I've come alive again, and where my values get to come alive. I get to show up for my family, feed my soul, um, and keep the balance. And again, it's not that I didn't have that at Mamu, but it's so easy to get lost into work that you love. And it's more of just kind of taking a step back, adding a framework around it. I always say, here's your guardrails. You can go wherever you want in these guardrails, but have your guardrails set. And I feel like I was able to, kind of mid-career take a step back and rebuild my guardrails and figure that out.
And not everyone gets that chance. You
Mm,
know, the
yeah.
amount of people who like spend 30, 40 years doing the same thing and then just die in harness the day they retire. It's just like, it's tragic. And I think that opportunity to like reorient ourselves, to
Mm,
see what has changed in us, what's changed in the external environment, and then to go, does this still work for me, is so valuable. So thank you so much for sharing that, Maddie.
mm.
Um, you know what? Our time's nearly over, Maddie. I mean, it's gone pretty quick, hasn't it?
It has. It's easy to talk to you.
Well, and you, like, I just think, like, now that you know that I can basically only just get down the kiddie slope at the ski centre, I feel like that was really our breakthrough moment, Maddie. Um, because am I right in thinking, were you also, did you tell me on the pre-call that you're also like, is it freestyle, or there's some other sort of like crazy form of like skiing that you also do that's not just like generic skiing? It's like sort of like vanilla, sprinkles, chocolate sort of stick in the top. Am I making this up, Maddie? Just tell me to shut the hell up if I am.
No, you're not. And this goes back to following my older cousins around and not getting hurt or going off a cliff or something. So they all competed in slopestyle and half pipe skiing. And of course I wanted to be my older cousins. So I followed them right along. And yeah, we all competed in half pipe skiing together.
All right. So for people that have only watched like 3 minutes of the last Winter Olympics, tell us what that discipline actually involves.
All right. So you have two slopes on either side of snow. And basically, you go in going straight up a wall of ice, try to get as high as you can in the air, doing multiple different spins or tricks or flips, and then land on the ice again and do it for like 8 or 9 times, and not that many, maybe four. And hope for the best. It is huck fest. It is a crazy sport. But essentially, you're throwing your body out of an ice tube and hoping for the best.
So is it like a skateboard half pipe?
It's like a skateboard half pipe. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't watch this on YouTube, including my mum, hi mum, you won't just have seen me making a very grimacing face, the sort of face that I would make if Maddie just told me that I was about to be the person at the rear of the four-man bob, the four-person bob, to go down the Cresta run in San Moritz. I made that sort of face. Um, d- I mean, it sounds quite dangerous, Maddie.
Lots of broken bones, lots of surgeries.
Okay.
Wish I had my nice system during that time. But yeah, it was a blast. I don't, today I'll question myself. And a couple years ago, I stood at the top of a half pipe in Park City just to, get the blood going again, see if I still had it. And I think this kid could not have been much older than 4 years old. comes and skis next to me, looks up at me and says, "Hey, old lady, are you gonna go?" And it just put everything into perspective. I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm too scared." And
Um,
yes, now I'm an old lady.
oh,
You go ahead and twist your body and fall anyway, and your knees
A,
will be okay.
A, fuck that kid, and B, like, it was like our son who's young, and, I every morning we give them a sort of vitamin gummy, you know, like one of the sort of little
Mhm.
sweet things with sort of multivitamins and whatever, and, I took one of the kids' ones, that was just still in the pack, and he was like, "No, dad, you need your old man gummies," and I was like, again, like, "Seriously? You could do one, son." I was like, "Just you
Yeah,
need your old man gummies." I was like, "All right, fine. I mean, like,
here
49, I
we
don't look
are.
too bad on it, son," you know, but, like, there he was, "Just get your old man ones." So, you know, there's no burn as sick as being burnt by your own kids, is there?
Right. They'll keep you humble real
Hu
quick.
100%. Um, um, Maddie, just 2 sort of final questions then. So,
Mm,
I am always interested to know who either should come on this podcast next or who's really inspired you. And I
mm.
wonder if there's somebody you'd like to sort of shout out. And it doesn't have to be for either of those settings, but just like, is there somebody who deserves a wider sort of recognition in the industry?
Ugh, yes. Well, I think, before I can pass it forward, there were so many women who came before me in this space that really just created the stepping stones for me to walk across, and women that opened doors for me, taught me everything I know. First off, my mom being somebody who pushed us into adventure always and was a cheerleader on the sideline. But there's women who were team managers, who, took me in my first role and taught me everything they knew, even when it came to the expense of, working on their own work. People like Catherine Smith, Allison Smith, Megan Raphael, Megan Matchkey at Powder, Sharon Hooten and Kristen Carpenter, women that mentored me and fueled me and said, "Let me come alongside of you, and teach you what I know." And I'm so grateful for that. And I wouldn't be in the position I am without that. And I just encourage women to continue doing that, because you don't know the impact you're going to have on somebody. Hopefully you do, but you may not. And of course, I've had the opportunity to have people on my team, particularly a woman, Drew Bates, who I've had the privilege of watching grow from an intern, into somebody who's really making a mark in this industry in every way that really matters. I think she knows who she is and where she's headed. She's exceptionally skilled and thoughtful and kind and empathetic. And I think she's going to leave a big mark on this industry. And I've had the opportunity to mentor her in plenty of ways, but she's mentored me right back. And I think that's what's so exciting about this next chapter is there's a whole generation of women coming up who are really ready to shake up this industry and bring a fresh perspective. And it's a space that I think is needed. But I'm excited to see that path continue to widen and widen, and more people to walk down it.
If your name was not just called, Maddie still thinks you're awesome,
I'm
folks.
I'm available to chat and be mentored.
Exactly. But they sound like an incredible sort of roll call of just like
Mm,
awesome humans. And
mm,
I do think, like, given the pace of, you know, seasonal industries, given the pace
mm,
of the work that we all do, it's like it's so easy to forget to just like put metaphorically the arm around somebody and just say, "Hey, you've done a
mm.
really good job," or "You've impacted me," or "You've made that difference." So I know that you just calling those people out will be really, really valuable. So thank you so much, Maddie. We've come to the final question, Maddie. I would sing you a song, but for legal reasons, no, not for legal reasons. I don't know if you have this show in the US, but there's one here in the UK called Last Comic Standing. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like
Yep.
it?
I do like it. I haven't seen it in a while, though.
Oh my God! There was what they had here in the UK. They had a comic who basically sang a song about dental nurses, and it started off with the line, "Dental nurses will never be the boss," and then it went really quite rude after that. But honestly, if you can watch this Last Comic Standing, folks, it is so funny. And the thing is, none of the comics are allowed to laugh. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend. So before we finish up, I wonder if there's something that you've given us so much, Maddie. Thank you. You know, you've shared your expertise, you've shared your time, you've shared your story, and I really, really appreciate that. So, firstly, a massive thank you from me and from the audience of Light the Fuse to you.
Well, thank you for having me and letting me share my experience. I know this isn't the typical conversation, but something really near and dear to my heart. So thank you.
It's even better for being rare. That's the thing that I think, and I know that a lot of people are gonna sort of take stuff from it because when we sort of don't talk about these things that are beneath
Mm,
the surface, they're actually the real undercurrents that really run how this industry works. So I think it's all
mhm.
the more valuable for that. What I was going to ask you is is there any sort of ask that you have for the audience? This is really your chance to just say something that's in your head or in your heart or on your work docket. It's over to you, Maddie.
Yeah. Gosh, this feels like a big stage, my moment to share the most insightful
Mum, just
advice.
make
But
sure that if you listen to Maddie's ask, that you respond, because you said
yeah.
last time with the last guest you'd respond, and then you didn't respond. So just to take the pressure off, Maddie, I'm just basically putting the hard word on my mum to basically make sure that she responds.
Great, we'll have one. But my advice and really what I'd ask the audience to do is take the time to find your values and let them shape and elevate everything you build, not the other way around. Your job is something you do, it's not who you are. And I think that line gets used a lot. It's a little cliche, but it has weight. And it's one of the most serious, deeply true things that I know and have come to know. Um, and I think, for me, the hopes is if your audience remembers nothing else from this conversation, um, remember the difference between a rented title and a permanent one and invest fully into your work hard, do good work, be proud of it. Just don't forget which one you'll still be holding at the end of your life. And I hope more than anything, I want my daughter to watch how I build my career and see a woman who knew the difference. And not someone who walked away from ambition, but someone who um, never let ambition tell her who she is. And that's, ultimately what I hope people take away from it.
Folks, that is a recipe for success in life. It really is. I was excited as the door just slammed there because what will happen, and no, don't worry at all. On a couple of podcasts ago, don't worry at all, Maddie, it's fine. We nearly had Philip at Dynafit's wife go into labour during the actual podcast. So I was like, if that phone rings, Philip, I'm telling you one thing for nothing. I said this on the podcast. I was like, you've got to answer that phone. And that's the thing. It's like other people have had like their cat walk in front and stuff like this. It's like life, isn't it?
It's life.
The amount of times
Hmm.
that like our kids, because both our kids are autistic, and the amount of times that they've like burst in, and I'll be like there with like a VP, and it's just like, yeah, come and say it. They'll just be like, bum or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, okay, fine, but
Oh,
like, it's just life, isn't
yes,
it? It's
it
just
is life.
it's just being normal and being authentic and being real, and I just think like that is what I've taken from this conversation, and just thank you so much. I think when we put up a sort of facade as humans, we lose. When we try and follow a path that others have set for us, lose. And I think when we plow our own path, we start to find a more meaningful way forward. So just thank you so much for
Mm.
basically being an awesome guest, Maddie. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, Patrick, thank you. I really appreciate the platform to share my story. So thank you.
Folks, it's been awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for listening. Mum, if you could please take down that 1-star review you left me on Apple Podcasts. It's got people talking. It's really quite awkward. I had to contact Apple themselves. Seriously though, folks, if you are open, willing or able, I've just actually got the last comments cleared off. Mostly because this podcast used to be about the market research industry. And then when we pivoted 4 years ago, it all turned. So if you are willing and able, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, and if you haven't enjoyed what you've heard, please don't listen again, because it's going to be like this into the future. All right. Don't blame me for not liking quality. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be chatting to VPs in product, in innovation across the sporting apparel and outdoor sectors. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got Superfeet coming up. We've got some folks from Nike coming up. We've got someone from Pelican coming up. We've got some really interesting people talking about their lives and their impact in this industry, stuff that you can learn lots from. So if you've learned something, please consider leaving a review on Apple or Spotify. We'd hugely appreciate it. Will help other people learn from the guests and from the conversation that I have with them. And thank you so much for your time and attention. Honestly, I don't underestimate how difficult it is to carve 20, 30, 40 minutes out of your day to just listen. And Maddie, same to you. Thank you for the pre-call and thank you for this. And good afternoon, good morning, and good night, wherever you find yourself in the world, folks. Thanks for listening to Light the Fuse. If this conversation got under your skin, please consider signing up for my newsletter. It's called Read the Room, and it's where you'll find out first what I think about the interviews and the themes that we've covered, and also where you'll find out first who's coming up next on the show. You can find out more and sign up at outrageousinsight.com/read the room.